All right, gals and guys, the subject of today's entry is stats. Why we love them, how we tend to get them today, and what the future holds for us. Fresher, more fluid ways of stat sharing and discovery. Let's start with the status quo, shall we? We all love sites like Baseball Reference, Fangraphs, Baseball Savant. They're the titans of stats. But I'll be honest, for me, finding specific combinatory answers, it more often feels like a chore I endure than it does a natural flow. That said, they're reliably consistent and accurate. And that sharply contrasts with the greatest threat currently facing those sites, large language models like Gemini and ChatGPT. The pre-AI sites, they get blown out of the water by the fluidity and flexibility of LLMs. But hallucinations and misinterpretations, they're still endemic to most AI tools. And a stat search without complete accuracy, well, it isn't worth much. And so why do we like stats anyway? Well, it's not a passion for math for most of us. I think it's this. Life can feel quite complex. A shared societal reality can feel like a distant fantasy. But for we sports fans, stats are a shared reality that we use as common ground. A common thread for discussions with our loved ones and for understanding how history connects to today, especially a sport so rich with history like baseball. So a couple weeks ago, I was thinking about the Philadelphia Phillies. The Phillies ball club had the second best record in all of baseball this past season. The Phillies have been good for years, with essentially the same core of players for most of those years. An idea had popped into my head that the Phillies' success is more about having a lot of mid and upper mid-tier veterans than it is about having a couple of ball gods like Shohei Ohtani or Aaron Judge at the top of the order. You know, I was batting about that idea on a video call with my dad, Mark. We often talk sport, and I wanted to pull up stats that might back me up in my theory. I arrived at this. Phillies players, obviously, with an OPS between 730 and 850, have a little bit of power, so 10 plus dingers, looking for hitters who have really good but not elite results. We ask Ballpark Genius that. We're going to get Harper, Turner, Marsh, Sosa, Bohm. We can set Harrison Bader aside because he was with them after a trade, a bit less than half the season. Now, that was pretty quick, but before Ballpark Genius, how would I do that? Well, I'd probably go over to Baseball Reference. One click to get in the search bar, another click to execute the search, scroll down a bit to standard batting, click to reverse sort the OPS so we can eyeball our range here, get a few other clicks in here to get all of the ball players whose OPS are within that range. So we're doing a lot of clicking and eyeballing here. I'll press shows only selected rows. And the final piece here is I'm going to reverse sort by games so we can get that 82 plus games criteria here. So that would eliminate Harrison Bader here. So we have our 5 players. Thankfully, the same players that are returned by Ballpark Genius. So that's how you would do it with most of the traditional stats sites. Now, lest you think that what we've done with Ballpark Genius is basically wrap something like Gemini or ChatGPT and just limit it to baseball, let's take a look at how it looks in the couple of most popular AI tools. Nowadays, when you search a phrase in Google, the top result's usually going to be this AI overview, which uses a version of their Gemini. Let's see what we've got. It wants to verify you mean dingers and not singers, because it's not baseball focused, right? But that's fine. And then we see a number of different classic Phillies players. So it's not focusing on the current season by default, which is okay, but it would take a decent amount more of clarification and querying to get at what we want, which is those players that match for 2025 in this case. Now going over to ChatGPT, which more of you may be familiar with from an AI perspective, enter the same exact query. It asks for clarification regarding what period of time we want to focus on. Fine, I enter in 2025, and here's what it gives us, right? We have Trey Turner, he should be there. Alec Bohm, he should be there. But where are the other guys? Well, let's look deeper into the explanation here. ChatGPT tells us that Kyle Schwarber is not included because his OPS is too high, which, yeah, I did want to filter out players like that. Then it says Bryce Harper had 27 home runs, but an OPS of 844. Pretty sure 844 is underneath 850, but let's keep reading. Just under your upper cutoff, could be included if you relax upper bound. Well, if it's under the upper cutoff, right, it does not need to be relaxed. So GPT's getting a little confused about how numbers and math work there. And then it talks about some other regulars. It recognizes these other players have been regulars with the Phillies for a number of years, but they don't match, which fine. But where are Edmundo Sosa? Where is Brandon Marsh? Well, I gave ChatGPT a chance to think about this a little bit harder, mentioned some of the other players, and said, what do you think about these? Why weren't they included? Well, it restates why Turner and Bohm were included in its original response, and then again specifically states why some of these other players don't make it. Sosa, he did have 89 games, 11 home runs. His OPS was 776. Those all should match, right? And they say that the home runs and OPS would fit the range, but with only 89 games in the counting stats, his sample is smaller, which it is smaller, but it's also greater than 82 games, right? So I think I'm getting the feeling that a big part of what ChatGPT is struggling with here is that numbers to begin with, but we said 82 plus, and it's getting confused about the semantics of what that means. Large language models interpret things as words typically, rather than numbers as such, and it looks like it's getting confused there. And so they do say Sosa, and still don't bring up Bohm at any point. So you can't use ChatGPT for this sort of thing, clearly, without a lot of massaging. Now, there has been a fairly new entry into the baseball stats arena here, and it's called Screwball. I discovered Screwball recently, and Screwball, I must admit, it does a damn solid job of enabling you to ask questions about their baseball data in English. Going over to Screwball here, going to first take the exact same query that we use with Boom Ballpark Genius here, run that baby, and that was pretty fast, and it looks like it did interpret these stats correctly. It knows it's the Phillies, it knows we're using OPS, it got the range right, it got the number of games or more that was required, home runs, did great on all of that. It is showing players for all of the Philadelphia Ball Club's history here, which is fine. I'm sure a lot of people want that. So we'll try to narrow down to 2025 here. And we do get what looks like correct results. Unlike GPT, we get Marsh, we get Sosa, we get Harper, which good on Screwball here. It wasn't screwing around with these results. For my money, their design and user interface are still too much like a mid-tier Excel spreadsheet. It's not my jam, but that doesn't mean it's not yours. But aesthetics aside, there is something else that Ballpark Genius gives you natural language access to, and that's StatCast data. One of the ways that the last decade or so of Major League Baseball has been described is the StatCast era. And if we're delivering a baseball stats product for the StatCast era, it better support StatCast, right? So going back over to Ballpark Genius, gonna take what we said before and add something else, that the hitters must also have had an average exit velocity of 90 plus. That the ball leaving their bat on average was 90 plus miles per hour. And so let's see what we get here. We get a quick result. It still recognized the previous range, the team, how many home runs were the lower cutoff, the amount of games, but it's also filtering down by the players that had an average EV of 90 or above. And what do we get there? We get Harper. He hits the ball hard. Makes sense. Marsh and Bohm, young guys on the team. So that's something that I'm really enjoying in Ballpark Genius and was important to me to get added. And it's not just EV that we support. There's whiff rate and launch angle and all sorts of things like that, right? And so if you did try that with Screwball over here, which we'll do here, and I'll filter out basketball this time, thinks about it for a bit, and then it returns in a different order, but it returns the same players. So it's not filtering down by exit velo. And if we look at their really cool, I think, Screwball Understood section here, I'll zoom in a little bit for you. It realized that these are batting stats for players on the Phillies within the season 2025, what the OPS range needs to be, how many games they must have played or exceeded, and that the home runs must be 10 or exceed it, right? Which is the same way it searched before appropriately last time. It's just sorted differently this here, but it doesn't mention that we wanted average exit velo. Whether it can give it to you or not, it doesn't recognize that as part of the query here. So Screwball's great, but we have tried to, not just in terms of aesthetics and user experience, but in terms of the wealth of data that you have access to and how many different types of data points that you can add as criteria at the same time. We tried to go above and beyond, and I hope that you'll feel that way too. So getting back to the three main questions I had at the beginning. How do we get stats today? Why do stats matter to us? And what does the future hold? Well, what I think the future holds is this. For me, Ballpark Genius is a way to contribute towards a future in which data is both more personal and more social, where data isn't something for large companies like Meta or Google to hoard away and use on you for advertising or keeping you in their applications as long as they possibly can. I built Ballpark Genius to be something that's fun and empowers us all. Lets us get access and insights into the data, the ways that matter to us and those around us. I built Ballpark Genius to talk baseball the way that we talk baseball. You're not using SQL queries. You're not seeing giant tables of tiny text and all of these filter drop downs, just natural language. So we can stop clicking through endless links and menus on those tired sports stat sites. Just ask for what you want in plain English, using baseball jargon like hurlers or dingers or punch outs if you'd like. And our AI understands baseball and delivers near instant intelligent results. So if you're ready to upgrade the way that you stat and have some fun doing it, please visit the link in the description And feel free to reach out to us with your questions. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Have a good one, everyone.